Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Just Another Kill Team podcast, connecting kill team communities across the globe. If you're passionate about the tactical skirmish game that brings together strategy, lore, and creativity, you are in the right place. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and stay updated with our latest episodes. If you want to support the show, check out our Patreon. Your support means a lot to us. Follow us by using the social media links in the podcast description for all the latest news, and be sure to leave a review to let us know what you think. All right, you guys, I want to take a quick moment to let you all know about Crossfire Games that is sponsoring this episode, a couple additional episodes as well. Crossfire Games makes some super cool tokens, token holders, measuring tools, all sorts of awesome goodies. They're super, super cool, really like high-quality 3D printed stuff. You can grab it from the Etsy link in the show notes and use the coupon code JUSTANOTHERKILLTEAM, all one word, all uppercase, at checkout to get a little discount and to help us out.
Hanging out with Mountainside Tabletop,
Yo.
friends of the channel.
Hey, what's going on?
Welcome.
Talking about Blood and Zeal, because that's the hot stuff of the day.
Yeah, it's absolutely looks awesome. Is awesome.
I guess
We're allowed to say it is awesome.
Before we get into it, we should tell all the listeners, out of all four of us, who's on which half. I am on the Imperial Weirdos number 2. Got a bunch of missionaries, and I've got a plan to bring it to people.
Yeah, I'll join you there with the praised monks.
Yeah, very much on Team Corn. Always on Team Corn.
Yep, also on Team Corn here, Goremongers all the way.
Yeah.
Little half jackals, half jackal, half robot.
Yeah, exactly.
All blood tanks, as it were. What are you guys excited for on the teams? Because I'm excited to basically fly across the map. I think there's like a pretty easy 17-inch move, and as a former Pathfinder player, being able to do a 17-inch move to threaten your opponent in their drop zone is always very amusing.
I prefer the term recovering Pathfinder player.
But just to be clear, you're saying that this is over 2 activations, right?
Yes, it is over 2 activations. We can't quite do it the same way where at one of the worlds, I took out a 21-inch ruler on a 22-inch board and told my opponent, if you want to avoid the grenade, this is a 21-inch ruler. This is if I do everything, so just ignore it. Just don't get hit by 6 people on a grenade.
That was one of our first videos ever. Victor got by our buddy.
Yeah,
by a
good times.
Grenade, yeah.
Yeah, the Blood and Zeal, I guess the Zeal half of Blood and Zeal does have a lot of movement shenanigans between the Confessor being able to drop a 6-inch move on everybody within 6 inches of him. Pretty wild.
Yeah, so he just brings the whole team. When the Confessor, which is the leader of the squad, moves, then a bunch of whoever else around him will move with him. And then if they're ready, then they can still move again later.
Yeah, and there's even there's a little intricacy around it where you just have to stay within Sermon. So because there are a couple models on the team that can get the activation point of Sermon in other ways, you can send off your generic Mook preachers onto objectives, and you can send your missionaries, because if they have a holy relic, they're always in Sermon, super, super far afield. So when you move your leader, probably if you're out activating your Space Marine or Elf opponent, you move your leader as the second to last activation, and then your Melta starts from 6 inches behind him, moves 6 inches up, and then moves another 6 inches. So you get 15 inches of threat range if your opponent just isn't really expecting, which can be kind of cool.
Yeah, there's some pretty nuts pseudo cheese, I would call it, with this team that you're definitely gonna catch people off guard. And I think they look like a lot of fun to play. Part of me worries about if they're going to be fun to play against, because they're one of those teams, kind of like Inquisition, kind of like, I don't know, Hand of the Archon a little bit. Some teams just have stuff that shuts down what your opponent wants to do. And it's fun to have a power fantasy of just saying no, I guess. But for your opponent, I just worry that it might be a little bit sad for them. But part of me doesn't care. I guess I've turned to the dark side because they just look too fun.
I mean, luckily,
at least they're squishy enough that it's not like Hyrotech, where it's you're not allowed to use any of your toys, and you can't kill me, and even if you do, I'm not really dead. Like, I think that's like, that feels way worse as like a you can't use your toys team. At least, like, if, eventually you're just going to be able to get these off the board.
Yeah, definitely better than where novitiates were at the beginning of the edition, where
Yeah,
your opponent would
exactly.
shoot, a casual 3 to 4 activations worth of generic chip damage, and you would heal and stay at 7 wounds at the end. Here, the Sermon of the Confessor and the Sermon team rule gives you -1 damage on 3 or more damage for both normal and crit. So your 7 wound, 8 wound operatives will survive probably about 1 more activation than they would otherwise, but not 2 or 3 or 4, unless your healer does some insane work. But that 6-inch bubble of +1 save and -1 piercing maybe is more bait than it's worth doing.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, if I could have not built this guy and just built a preacher, I probably would have.
Yeah, the box is not the most flexible in terms of build options.
Unfortunately. Definitely think it's going to be a 2-box team, but here we are stuck with 1 box for now, so we got to make do with what we got. Or
yeah, for anyone wondering why, me and Brad are thinking that it's a 2-box team, the generic operatives for the Sanctifiers is the Preacher, and if they are on objectives, they are in Sermon, so they have the ability to basically appear out of the buildings, out of nowhere, and gain control of objectives when the Confessor moves. So having the extra operatives that can suddenly gain Sermon when your opponent isn't expecting it is going to be kind of important, I think, for the team functioning. So having a couple of them probably sounds like a good idea. Maybe not all 4, but 1 or 2 probably seems like pretty much a necessary evil.
Yeah, they give me shades of Subductor from Exaction, where it's like they're kind of just a warrior, but also they're a good warrior that you actually want to take sometimes. I guess a few teams have that now, but
yeah, the Goremongers have this vibe too. Like, the aspirants are pretty useful. Jason's been raving about them privately for, I don't know, 2 weeks at this point.
Yeah, the Goremongers warriors, the aspirants, they're like, you might want to have 6 of them on hand, because they're super, super good.
Did you see Vic's eyes just go wide there?
I mean, yeah, Vic, you have your own World Eaters army, so you probably have backup Jackals floating around.
Oh my god! Yeah, I could field 40 aspirants, no problem.
Yeah, the aspirants chain lightning charge like the 2nd edition Khorne Legionary thing. So essentially, after they perform a fight action, if they're not in combat range, control range, they can immediately perform a charge action. They can't move more than 2 inches to do it. But with how fast they are, like, especially if you like juice up the blood tank, so you've got an 8-inch base movement, you charge for 10 so that you just like, you run past the thing you're trying to charge and you're barely within control range, you chop them to bits, you get your blood tank back, and then you 2-inch chain lightning charge into someone else. It's craziness.
And then give yourself an extra APL and hit them again.
Or do the second fight.
Yeah. It is kind of crazy.
Is there a second fight? You can fight twice.
So for anyone who doesn't know or hasn't looked at the previews at this point, just so we can go over the Goremongers' big shtick, you get 8 operatives. They all have 2 APL, 5 wounds, 10 wounds, 5 up saves, 32 millimeter bases, which is important for this aspirant chicanery over here. And you have 6 abilities that come from your blood tanks. Everyone starts with 1 level, and you can go up to Fool. So it's basically 0, 1, or 2 stages on the blood tank. And you can use 1 stage to do either any of these 6 things, and none of them can be repeated, and you can't do +1 APL and free fight and a second fight on the same turn. But, before or after an action, 2d3 heal. Before or after an action, +1 APL, 2 fight and 1 fight free. And then when you finish moving, you inflict D3 on 1 enemy operative within control range. Add 1 inch to the movement, and then 1 attack to the operative. So you basically have any of the rules that you would ever want on a melee sequence on hand at any time.
On demand.
That's not even it. They still have an extra bonus rule.
I think this team looks so good. I'm interested to hear your thoughts, but I looked at them and I was like, holy crap. Like, good movement, good health, good fighting, and yeah, they have 5 up saves, but you can't one-shot them.
It's
Yes.
true. So
Yeah.
we've entirely skipped their anti-shooting rule, which is they can only take 8 damage in the shooting sequence.
Yep, Runes of Corn is the faction ability, and it's just hard wound cap at 8 per shooting action.
So,
So Space
as the
Marines can still
sanctifier
double
half
tap you.
of the podcast, I'm basically praying that I do just enough damage with my 2 little 4 dice on 2s, 3/3 flamethrowers, and then I add a little blaze token, which is after the sequence is done. The next time that operative is activated, they take D3 damage, and then you have a chance to put out the fire or have the fire go out naturally. But if you don't put it out, it stays on, and you take another D3 the next activation. So.
Yeah, I do appreciate how this is kind of the novitiate rule ported over, except that it's always active. You don't have to pay for it.
It's also not like, I think the old one was like only on crits. So this is just any old flame weapon lights your opponent on fire, which is super nice. Yeah, and it's basically necessary for there to be a chance for your sanctifiers to ever have like a chance to kill a Goremonger in shooting.
You still have to crit though, right? If you retain any crits, I think.
Oh yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
my bad.
But it's still good. I think, especially like if you're running around a stronghold, if you're running around the Gallodark and you're hitting crits on 5-ups, you're gonna be blazing lots of
Crit City.
blaze it.
Yeah.
How many times? If Rekka Crew is the bring the boom team, is the Sanctifiers blaze it? Is that their catchphrase?
I think it is now.
This is a team doubles tournament in the making.
I think Rekka Crew versus Goremongers would be hilarious.
Yeah, I will say that, like, looking at the pair of teams flavor-wise, I think they've done a pretty good job of making them both feel pretty on theme, and also, the number for Corn is 8, so everything revolving around 8 is pretty funny.
Yeah, definitely. I think they've nailed the flavor of the team, and just like as a kill team, I think it's a really interesting. I think both teams are like interestingly different, and it's power level aside, I think like 2 really refreshing takes and 2 really unique playstyles. And it's one thing I really like. So far, we've had 6 teams, or I guess 7 teams with Plague Marines. But like the 6 box teams that have come out in this edition have all been such unique play styles, and I really appreciate that. Like stretching from a game design perspective, just like stretching the limits of absurdity in a good way. I love that we've made it all the way to Flamer spam. It makes me so excited for every box.
Well, I've seen a lot of people say when this box was revealed before the rules, people were talking about like, oh, another like human pleb team. Like we have a million of those. But I think looking at the rules, this team is going to play really differently than anything we've seen.
It's really hitting like a different part of the Imperial vibe. Like we've had a lot of properly trained guys who are here to do a pro mission, who are like door kicking. This is literally like a bunch of weirdos who are just like praying for the Emperor the entire time, backed up by a little baby Jesus or a little baby Empress, really, in this situation. And the Miraculous is probably like one of the standout operatives, because I'll be honest, looking at the specialists on the Sanctifiers, a lot of them kind of like, they seem okay. I mean, being able to ignore injury but hitting on 4s for your Drill Abbot, who's one of your aura pieces, hitting on 4s with Cesis and Lethal 5 has not generally been a overwhelmingly reliable piece. But we do have the Miraculous, which is basically our Psyker, our baby Psyker, who's got a 4-up save, and she's got 2 limited like fire weapons. So she runs out into the middle of nowhere. She like grab you for 1 dice on 2, 7, 8, brutal, and blaze. So there's a chance she just one-shots a 7-wound model, but it is limited. And then if she dies, she comes back to life at 1 wound and then runs away because she gets a free dash or fallback, which is pretty funny. And if you were looking for a way to like start your opponent with some bait, you can stack the Miraculous with the conversion field of the Sanctifier and a portable barricade to make like a 2-up save minus piercing bait piece that you just like leave at the beginning of the game to make your opponent like, oh, maybe I can kill this Miraculous. And it's basically impossible to kill.
I mean, in a way, it's literally impossible to kill with one activation.
Yeah.
I think the Wreath in Fire is hilarious, where you just like, it's almost like you're a bomb squig for one thing, but not.
Yeah, she has the ability to basically bomb squig your opponent with one of her shooting profiles, and then the other shooting profiles also basically everything is limited. So you're just running around with these like 3 one-use weapons that are all basically small miracles. Pretty fun flavor.
Also, hot take maybe best kill team model we've seen. That's an extremely hot take. Bombs.
It's a very good vibe. Like having our flaming Empress baby run around on the battlefield while predicting horrific things to our opponents and then lighting them on fire. Pretty Imperial. Definitely not a vibe we have on any Imperial team so far. Like even Inquisition agents, which I lovingly refer to as Imperial Weirdos 1, doesn't really have, a baby miracle floating around.
I'm hoping eventually we get a baby spam team. That's what I really want.
All cherubs.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of Rattlings.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Someone has to do a conversion of Rattlings with just babies in diapers.
Craplings.
Craftlings.
Yeah. I mean, I think they do strike nice different skews of what humans can be in the Warhammer 40K universe. The fact that Jackals are a 7 move team is kind of crazy. We've had elves at 7 wounds, and we've had our Phobos at 7 wounds, but now we finally have like a human team that moves 7 inches. So they're kind of sitting in the same design space as Void Dancers and Blades of Cain, but they are distinctly more human take because they're not always 3 APL. Then they are definitely way more melee focused than some of the Eldar teams. Like as much as Void Dancers are doing severe blade shenanigans, they're not healing mid combat. So you're still balancing a little bit of shooting and your melee. Have the ability to shoot with some cheeky wrist chains on the equipment where you get a 2-inch shot with your melee weapon, which is kind of cool, but
just nunchuck your glaives.
Like a once per turn gun that's doing 4 or 5 damage with rending on a melee team is I'm taking it every time.
Yeah. Also, just the concept of a chain glaive that is also nunchucks and just whipping that thing around on a chain is just extremely hazardous and ridiculous, and I love it.
Yeah. You should have to take a hot roll for it.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, honestly, just thematically, that should have a hot roll.
It kind of feels like this team, like movement should have a hot roll. Just everything, like every action, you have to roll a d6 and maybe hurt yourself.
It's just so hazardous.
Yeah, it does feel like there's quite a few like must takes on the Goremongers already. Like looking at their equipment list, you basically always take a bloody cadaver and you just leave it like in your staging zone somewhere, because every turn during the strategic gambits, or I think during ready, you get a free blood token. Yeah, you get a free blood token on one of your operatives. So being able to start an activation at 3, or like your full blood tank, means that you effectively are 3 APL with a 2d3 heal, and that's your lowest possible use case for a 7-inch mover. And you could be an 8-inch charge with 2d3 heal or extra attacks or all this other crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I could definitely see when the Goremongers are going well, your opponent is just covered in a tide of loud chain swords.
Yeah, the Gore tanks. So you don't want to always just like spend it all, because just having blood in the blood tank gives you all sorts of other buffs with your strategy ploys. So a couple of them: Gory Tenacity, that's the half damage one. Augmented Endurance is if you're at a half tank, you basically have a balanced armor save, and if you're at full, you have a relentless armor save, which is actually a lot better than it looks. Because you're saving on 5s, but if you reroll everything, it's gonna feel kind of like 3-up armor. So it's just like stockpile it, and then you've got rerolls. And then one of the other ploys, Enhanced Violence. Exactly. Yeah. What more can you ask for? It's kind of the same thing where you get balanced, but for your melee weapons, which will also include your 2-inch shooting. So you get balanced for it if you've got a half tank, and relentless if it's a full tank.
That does seem belligerently good on 3s.
It's kind of wild.
Like, obviously it's early and nobody knows anything, but I'm looking at this team. I haven't even read all the rules, but just like looking at the Cole's notes of the Goremongers, is there any chance this team is not cracked? Like it looks good, right?
The
They do
real
look
question
really
is whether or not
good.
your 10 wounds will reliably beat the 14 wound Astartes reliably enough. And I suspect
think
that
it
with
will.
a 2d3 heal, it probably is, because if
Right.
you kill the Astartes, you heal immediately after, so it's kind of hard.
And then also you can take half damage from like a single hit. You can stage. You want to hear one of my crazy combos for fighting elves with this team? Not that they need any more help fighting elves. You can literally just like sprint out to the middle of the board and like pop smoke at your feet. Which I love to do that with every team, but this team does it
I was gonna say, I
especially
think this
well.
is just your strat.
It is, yeah. So you start there, good old fashioned, just like the classic start. If they run up and try to shoot you within 2 inches, you survive on 2 no matter what they do. And then on the next turn, you use Hunt for Blood ploy so that you charge them in the command phase. And then you heal 2d3, activate, take half damage, kill that elf, get your blood tank back, chain lightning charge into someone behind them, hit them with a crit because you have a ploy that gives you severe, so that that elf has 3 health left, and then when they kill you, you use explosive destructive demise, and then you kill them when you die. And then you just have a single warrior that had 2 health at the start of the turn, double kill elves.
It's such a shame that the only person I play against hates elves, and I have all the Eldar teams.
I guess you'll have to do it too.
After you guys play enough, you guys will do the team swap. It'll be fine.
Yeah, I'll have to actually go to a game store for that one.
I will say, having to fight the elves on Goremongers, that's where the aspirants again are more useful, because they have the flat 4/5 damage profile, which is not a thing that all of the specialists have on the Goremongers, which is an interesting choice. So you're balancing out kind of like the flat melee threat of your aspirants versus the more flexy tools of your specialists, which I think is kind of a nice spot. Both of these teams in this box have that kind of decision point, so I kind of expect that both of them might be. You might want 2 boxes, or at least to have proxies for all of the other options if you are going to go to a tournament with both of these teams, for better or for worse.
It seems like it's kind of universally true. Like, it's possible to play Kill Team with 1 box per team, but if you are trying, like, with pretty much any team besides Gellerpox and Star Striders that you would take to a tournament, you're going to want a second box.
Yeah, it's like when we first saw all the rules for this edition, and it seemed like there was like a real effort to make the warrior operatives viable on every team. It's like, oh, I love that, but at the same time, I kind of hate that. It's like, yeah, I get it, and I do love it, but it's like, I gotta build so much more now.
Yeah, they did circle back around a little bit and then go back and like kneecap the best warrior, the legionary warrior in the background in the last patch. Like, oh, this guy's too good. All right, we're getting it. We're knocking him down. He can only take marks once. It's like, well, that was a little disappointing. But I suppose, the crew, for the crew warriors or the commandos, all of these operatives that have the ability to use extra grenades, those are still floating around. They're still pretty nice. And according to Command Point Shane, the Farstalker warriors are pretty useful right now. And looking at it, they do seem kind of good. So it's nice to see another box with that design principle, because these aren't like overbearing, I don't think. At the end of the day, the preachers are 7 wound guys with 5-up saves who -1 damage for 3 damage or more. So they're gonna play like 8 or 9 wounds, so they'll survive a little bit longer, but not overly much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good thing the team doesn't have a medic. If they had a medic, the team would probably be hyper annoying to play against.
Right.
Yeah. It just depends. Like, if you think about a guy, if he had, let's say they had 9 health on average, they're going to act like they have 9 health in a lot of situations. 4-on-4s, 4/5 chainsword, but they have Ceaseless and they have Lethal 5, like, a lot of the time. That's not too bad. And they have Hand Flamers if you need it.
Yeah, you can basically always like prep your opponents as a Sanctifier player with your flame weapons. I can't tell if the Sanctification Orb is going to be worth it, and that's, for anyone who doesn't know, it's an equipment option that lets you basically stun grenade your opponent as far as like visibility and targeting rules, but instead it gives all of your flame weapons seek for 1 shot. So you spend a whole activation to remove your opponent's cover because you douse them in oil, probably, and then you light them on fire. Whether or not that's actually going to be good, I don't know.
There's the niche situation where you throw it and it like AoE gives the douse to more than one guy. Yeah. But I think that's pretty low chance, and also it's a roll to see if you even get to douse them. You could just do nothing.
Yeah, I think it reads to me a little bit too high risk for it to be worthwhile, especially on a bunch of 2 AP models. But with all the free movement cheating, I might be discounting it a little bit because if I imagine the Confessor is dropping people closer to your opponents at will, then maybe you will have basically the second APL floating around at all times because you'll have extra movement. And the twin fire pistols dude has a Sanctifier orbs on his back, so he can always run around and just like yeet jars of oil at people.
Yeah.
So like you always have it around. I just don't know if you would ever take it as an option, considering that the Death Cult Assassin, which is the native 3 APL model on the Sanctifiers, is not allowed to use it, which is also a restriction that I find puzzling.
Mm-hmm. I think
That's a
the
little
Cherub
goofy.
is gonna be like, there's gonna be so many options. The Cherub is basically the comms. Wait, it's like a 2-inch range comms, but it has fly and 7-inch move. So kind of hard to use, but like it's basically an accelerated plasma sight with a worse range. But I feel like there's so many operatives on this team that want 3 APL. It's gonna be like, who do you buff?
And with a 2-inch support, it does also make it a little bit harder to figure out where the Cherub is going to go anyways, because it is right next to the friend he's buffing, unless you give it a comms device, and then it's a 5-inch bubble, which is not the worst. It is amusing to think about the 3 attacks on 5s, 1-3 shock melee profile that the Cherub has, because with all the other rules baked into the team, you can get it up to 3 dice on 5, ceaseless, lethal 5, and then basically any hit is going to deal 3 damage and shock them. So the Cherub, like, finishing off your opponent as like the last thing it does is the thing that I've had to do on Vespid. So the oversight drone charging in and hitting someone.
I've had so many turning point 4 drone kills with Vespids. It's I love it.
And even as like, on Pathfinder, it's like, oh, I need this thing to die, and you're at 1 wound. Gun drone, go! Like, shield drone, go! Grab drone, go! Like, all 3 drones go and make a melee, send it. And the send it on the Cherub is actually a little bit more consistent than anything the Tau can even attempt to pull off. And you're gonna leave people at weird wound counts between your 3/3 shooting attacks and the blaze tokens that you're leaving around. So maybe the Cherub kills are gonna be a thing.
Yeah. You get a tasty crit, you kill a Marine. It's gonna happen. You get a Marine down to 3 health and you go.
I mean, the Cherub kind of can threaten most of the 7 wound people after you've done like a couple fight steps. So you probably will end up doing cleanup duty, because a 7-inch charge out of like the shadow of nowhere to zap an opponent in the leg and he just goes down. Also, a Cherub doing the final kill, always funny, just like the oversight drone on the Vespid, like flying out of a building and like hitting someone in the head. It's great mental imagery. What are you most excited for, Vic, on the Goremongers after looking at them and kind of embracing the rules as a fan of the World Eaters?
Yeah, as a fan of the World Eaters, I mean, I'm most excited because I think they've just nailed the flavor. I think it's gonna give me the opportunity to play it the same way that I play World Eaters in 40k, which is like I actually want to go first, and just everything. Like one thing I really like is that like even like the Blood Taker and the Impaler, which are like, I guess, the least killy melee operatives. They're still extremely killy melee operatives, but like even them, they're like the softest hitting specialists. With the Runes of Khorne, I mean, you still have full license and are going to be pretty successful just throwing them at stuff. And throwing them at stuff and using their blood.
Yeah, because if you move up into an aggressive position and you're playing against a shooting team, because normally you can just stage just at the edge of your opponent's like melee range, just because you have a 7-inch move and your opponents have 6-inch moves. So you like stage right at the edge, and that means your opponent's easiest aggressive action against you is to move up and shoot you. And then in those cases, the Runes of Khorne stop you from dying, and then you drink the blood, and then you hit your opponent. And if you filled up your tank before you went to stage, you can basically fight as a full strength operative.
Frenzy with no downside. You don't even have to remove your model after you die, because you don't.
Yeah, pretty spicy. The Impaler also is the guy with the flesh skewer, and he can just like Mortal Kombat Scorpion. He's the one that get over here. Stun. So he's got stun, drag, and pray. Pray is in Prey. He's not, spreading the good word.
Praying for blood, really.
Yeah, praying for blood, exactly. So it's you shoot them with the harpoon. Drag lets you pull them 2 inches closer per successful die that you resolve, and then pray is you can skip dealing damage to people. So it's like if the whole reason you pull someone in is because you want them in a compromised position so you can charge them and like hold them hostage until next turn or whatever, and killing them would defeat that, you can opt out of killing them so that you can just like trap them there. You don't really have anything that gives you any rerolls or makes it more reliable in any way. So if I was gonna, the only time I would ever use that would be to just snag someone from 2 inches away and then just immediately hold them hostage with the impaler. Or like if you use it against mandrakes and they're in shadow or something like that, and you want to just like yoink them out of shadow, just like hit them with the flesh skewer, pull them out of the shadow, and then just like beat them with the butt of the gun.
Yeah, you use it to basically stage up so that your opponent is in a compromised position that can't shoot into your gore takers because there's like 3 of them holding onto the dude who got scorpioned.
I love any tech that moves your opponent's operative. I think is so much fun in this game, and I think they've done a great job of making those mechanics few and far between. But it's such a good time.
Yeah, the Impaler is definitely a more flexible version of this kind of effect that we've seen so far, because generally they've been on the Knuckle Duster archetype. So you're like pushing someone an inch at a time, or you're shoryukening them and they move 3 inches away from you. But this is, you hit someone with the shooting attack that's, I think, range 8?
Range 8, yeah.
And then you move them in 2-inch increments. Which is pretty flexible, because you can drag them basically all the way to you.
Yeah, totally. Pretty feasibly.
And then once they're trapped with you, you can use them as a springboard for the next turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Blood Taker is basically your blood comms. The first time you chop someone, it fills your blood tank up a step, so you can just like spend one immediately and then run in and chop someone, get one of them back. If you kill them, then you're all of a sudden you've spent one and you're still at a full tank anyways, which is pretty gnarly. And like I said, with that relentless armor saves thing going on, especially because one of your equipment is reduced piercing by 1, you could just like run out into the open and slaughter someone with the Blood Taker, for example. And then if someone tries to shoot you back with a bolt rifle and they get like a crit and 2 hits, and you ignore the piercing with your Chaos Sigil equipment, and then you roll 3 dice and with a reroll, and you just like take 0 or 3 damage. That's not even that unlikely.
Yeah, the shooting teams are definitely in trouble against the Goremongers. I can't really imagine, the current iteration of any of the shooting hordes being all that reliable against them. Having 8 hyper-efficient melee guys that all have a baked-in medic seems pretty hard for basically any 7-wound shooting team that hits on 4s nowadays.
Yeah.
To really have a good chance.
Can't even hide on top of Volcus anymore. Not even safe up there.
It's true, because there's a stalker. One of the extra Goremonger operatives just has ladders baked into his legs.
Yeah.
Nasty.
And is the best model on the team.
He's pretty gnarly.
I think,
yeah, it's like he's definitely one of the auto takes for open boards all the time. It's the Goremonger Stalker. He's got Pick Rippers. It's the same profile as your Warriors, where it's 4 attacks on 3, 4, 5 rending. But then they also act as climbing picks, which lets him climb anything for 2 inches. So it's kind of like Flip Belts, but a little bit worse, but still very, very good. The Rooftop Stalker, if he's on a rooftop fighting or he jumps off of a rooftop, he becomes relentless. Note that it is fighting, so not retaliating. So if you climb up on a rooftop and someone charges you, you're going to be flat-footed a little bit. Not that, he'll probably just kill you anyways, depending on who you are.
Yeah, very cool team. And I can only imagine that the Gore Takers, their only real weakness is going to be players who are probably a little bit too aggressive with them, because while you can't get killed in one sequence, Space Marines can shoot you twice over 2 separate sequences. So having any Space Marine come up to your opponent and then shoot them twice, you only have to do 6 damage twice for them to die, and that's not all that crazy. So for all the Space Marine teams that are going to have to look at the Goremongers, being able to stage up for a move shoot is probably going to be good enough. Like Tzeentch Legionaries are going to absolutely mulch the Goremongers because any of your random dudes can have 4 APL, so you can move dash and just fully tap an operative, which is going to be good.
Yeah, and like if you don't use the reroll ploy or your blood tanks are full or you don't roll well, then shooting will just like beat you up. And like a Goremonger with an empty tank on 2 wounds is just gonna die because it's like if I charge you, I hit you once, you kill me, and that's it. So I think it'll be easy to blunder the team into the ground and just die, but also I think they are incredibly good at just all gas turbo melee. You just need to stage for like double charges and just all that. Yeah, you just feed the bite and never let off the brakes. And as long as you're doing it efficiently and like actually getting double kills, it's going to be insanely powerful.
I mean, if you're not playing kill team with your feet in the appropriate position around the brakes, what are you even doing?
Exactly.
And really, that's where the Sanctifiers kind of are the mirror half of the Goremongers, where the Goremongers are all gas, no brakes. The Sanctifiers are all brakes, no gas. Because you're hitting on 4s, which, generally means that any of your offensive actions kind of being not the best in melee. And then all of your shooting attacks hit on 2s, but it's only 3/3 damage. So you're never really going to output that much damage. And you're really relying on the fact that you get a single crit, dropping a blaze token, and guaranteeing the extra D3 damage on your opponents to really make your shooting attacks do the 7 wounds required to at least play the game in shooting.
It is going to feel great, though, when you get them low enough where the damage from the blaze kills them, and then they have to waste their whole activation just doing nothing.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you're thinking, oh, the extra damage would be nice. I'd rather just kill them outright. But like making them waste their activation is so sick. Like we've seen it with poison.
Yeah.
Can be really nasty.
Vespids.
Yeah. And since the whole team has access to the rule and most games are being played on Volcus and in the dark, you're basically guaranteed to have lethal 5 in probably 60 to 70% of your games, which means that all of your flamers are going to be more likely to do the blaze. Unfortunately, there's no shooting rule on your strat ploys. It's all melee centric stuff and defensively oriented things. So you get strat ploy movement, strat ploy melee buffs for ceaseless if you're in sermon, and then lethal 5 if you're on the charge. So 4 attacks on 4s, lethal 5, ceaseless, 4/5 chain swords is going to be your middling profile, with having a brutal eviscerator with a flamer attached to it being one of them. Mm-hmm. And again, because everyone has this stupid flamer on it, it's really hard to figure out where you're going to put a comms buff because everybody can use it.
Yeah, and you got just a scratch. So that really helps. Like, if you need to get the momentum rolling and you're like, okay, I need to kill an elite right off the bat, you have the tools to make like your one activation really count.
Yeah, I mean, you do have a lot of anti-shooting rules. So between the girl that's holding the little box, she's got a conversion field. She gives you -1 piercing, which is a rule that we took away from the elites. So having that is pretty good because it means that crack grenades are not generally going to instantly kill you. You've got ecclesiarchal or you've got imperial cult symbols. So when your opponent shoots you, you can downgrade everything from crits to normals once a turn. So you can basically guarantee that you're going to take like the flat damage profile in shooting. You can't do it in melee because in melee you have just a scratch and you pray that that's good enough. But when you're getting shot at, if you set up the auras, you can have a 6-inch bubble of better save, no piercing, and then you can reduce normals or crits down to normals. And because you have -1 damage, your 7 wound profile in cover is going to be saving on 4s with a cover save, and then generally not going to die to any one sequence outside of a overcharged plasma gun or like a melt-a-gun. But even then, you can spike because you have the conversion field up.
Yeah. Plus, like a lot of plasma guns will only hit on 4s, and that's not great.
I will just call out for anyone who has never played against the Breachers in their heyday that 8 wound operatives with scary guns and -1 damage generally will just vastly overperform what you think as far as defensive abilities.
Those were the days.
I think like looking at this team, it is maybe a little bit like it's masked the power because it's so split between so many different rules. Whereas some teams, it's like obviously you look at their faction rule or you look at like one profile and you're like, wow, that is strong. But here, it's like the sum of the parts comes together, and it's just we're gonna have to see, is the sum actually big enough to make something happen?
Yeah, because you do have infinite movement pieces, infinite tricks, but looking at it, I would expect that the Goremongers are the better half of the box as far as tournament play. I mean, at least at the beginning anyways, because Goremongers are going to be way more simple to at least play at a competent level, because melee do 2 shots your opponent is a much easier vibe than I have to figure out how many 17-inch moves I need to line up that I do at the end of my opponent's activation, that if I mess it up at the beginning of the next turn, I can run away as efficiently as possible. So there's a bunch of movement tricks that you can do on the Sanctifiers, where if you're out activating your elf or your Astartes opponent, you can basically sit in a tiny box that's really far from your opponent, wait for your opponent to be in counteract, have your Confessor move, and then have everybody suddenly appear into your opponent's like visibility lines, not get counteracted, send people off one by one, and the beginning of the next turn, you can use your strat ploy to basically run away back into the Confessor bubble, activate the Confessor, and have everybody return back to the bubble and just disappear. So it is fully possible, if you win if you out-activate your opponent and then win initiative, for you to hit your opponent 2 or 3 times and then disappear back into the boxes, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, like the movement power is very, very strong, but it's also one of the easiest things in the game to mess up. So it's like, it's super not obvious. It's like, I mean, it is kind of like one of the things that make the elf teams so volatile, because it's like they're really strong with the movement shenanigans, but it's really easy to mess it up. This team kind of has the same thing going on, but like 6-inch movement and other stuff that makes them much, much faster. And it's like, I don't think we've seen a horde this fast since original Pathfinders.
And even original Pathfinders, you were launching probably like 2 or 3 operatives up. This is basically the whole team, if you do it right, should always be able to do the majority of the movement when you need to. Obviously means that the Confessor is kill on sight, so if you ever get a line on your opponent's leader model, you do just absolutely throw extraneous resources, more resources than you would expect, because he has 10 wounds.
He has a lot of ways to shut it down too. Like I feel 10 wounds for sure is good. His like commanding declamation ability, if they move within 6 inches of you, which, you know, sometimes if you're concealed, they're gonna have to move really close, or if they have a gun that has to move close, or if they're trying to kill you by fighting you, you can roll a die and there's a chance they just can't do the action that they want, right? So like a lot of times you can just deny them that way. You can deny them with just a scratch. All these ploys that we've been talking about, seems pretty crazy.
Yeah,
honestly.
They're a defensive melee horde, and the last time we had a good defensive melee horde on release, they were a little overbearing. We've had 2 of them. Gellerpox and Imperial Navy Breachers are both melee hordes that were both very good, and this is a team that has way more movement cheats than either of those 2 teams ever had. Like, Gellerpox were drawn to the hum, and that was a free dash on strat ploy phase. This is straight up 6 inches of movement or fallbacks or charges on demand. So it is really going to...
Go ahead.
It really is going to be how well can you line up all of these different little movement combos while keeping yourself not able to get killed in 2 shots. Because, you know, your 7 wound operatives, even with the -1, will die to concentrated fire. So having a wall of Astartes at the midline that just run into you with reckless abandon probably will be very spooky for Sanctifiers.
Can I run this strat by you guys and you tell me your likelihood of it being trash or good or mid tier?
Go for it.
Okay,
of course. What else would we be here for?
The Confessor, right? So you can do this whole move up your whole horde team with him, but it also works for fallbacks or charges. So you wait till they come to the middle objective. You charge like all your guys into like a couple guys, so they're each charged by 2 or 3 or 4 guys. So you're hitting on 2s. And then also you weaken a guy, then you go with another guy just to like finish him off. Then you can still shoot another guy somewhere close. Like the charge here, we haven't even talked about him charging guys in, but the charge seems kind of cracked. Also, if you APL buff a guy that's a good melee threat, and then you charge him not on his turn, then he still has 3 APL, so he can fight, charge again, and I guess he can't fight twice, but or he could charge, then move and shoot someone. I don't know.
It would
That
be like
actually
you would
does
fight,
seem-
do the mission action, then charge someone else and shoot someone else, hopefully on the way.
Yeah.
But there definitely are a lot of really intricate combos that the Sanctifiers allow you to do. The real thing on the Confessor's ability that lets him move around is he's got to activate, and everyone's got to be in Sermon before and after. So you set him, you say you're going to do the movement thing, everybody charges. As long as they end in Sermon, that's the most important thing. So it is crazy, crazy powerful, and there are a lot of like crazy jukes that you can do. So launching a couple of your melee guys, getting the combat support, pushing yourself from a 4 to a 3 just makes you infinitely more consistent, even just on that. And defensively, you could do the Felgor thing of like charge pass, because ceaseless 4 dice on 4s, stun, or shock shows up a couple times with your Brazier. So there are a couple profiles that are better defensive melee profiles, and having a couple dudes pushing you to defensive stuff can make your opponent's first activations either be take blaze tokens or do a middling fight that your opponent can rosary and like take initiative on. So there definitely are a lot of cool traps there.
If you buffed a missionary, use the leader to charge the missionary, then you could fight with the missionary hitting on one better or multiple better. Then you move and melt to someone. That seems sick.
I think
do that all to like
we
someone that
haven't
you shot down to 1 health, and then you go like charge, finish them off with the flamer, and then just like zip off somewhere and absolutely cook someone. I mean, just like that combo that you just said, it kind of just like makes your whole team 3 APL, and then your assassin will be like 4 APL because they just charge, and then like the other person's like, whoa, because I can't fight the assassin because they parry first and they're gonna mulch me, and then like if they leave you alone, then you chop someone and then like shoot someone and then charge someone else.
Yeah, it's definitely a team that feels like it's echoing basically like the novitiates of the past, where the novitiates were definitely more than the sum of their parts back in the day. Sure, they hit on 3s and had infinite rerolls, but they definitely were able to make some 3-inch, 6-inch bubbles that basically meant that your leader never dies in shooting, which means that your opponent's always getting baited into doing something else, which means that like your sniper in the back line can cross map murder someone with like 3 crits. This team, you're doing it in a different way of like you get to mob your opponent and then disappear back into the shadows, or you have your missionaries run a field with their severe profiles, because then your Brazier of Holy Fire is now 4 dice on 4s, 4/4 ceaseless severe in melee, which means that most people probably aren't going to kill the 8 wound dude that has a sermon going. Pretty cool.
Super cool.
Yeah, man, I had never like thought of that at all. The charge everyone at once, and that like will immediately change the whole state of the game. It's like it feels like everything's going okay, and then you've got 2 operatives that get double charged, for example. Then all of a sudden, like if you fight any of them, they're all hitting you on 3s and just like bullying you. And if you like fall back, then they just light you up with flamers and charge you. That's super good, and I love that so much. That's wow.
Yeah, I was just thinking about like the options that charging other people like not on their activation adds, like pretty huge. And there are some, not a lot of operatives, but there are some operatives that have like pretty good fighting and pretty good shooting. Like the missionaries I'm thinking of in particular could like really do work, like a buffed up missionary. And the assassin obviously is good if he is within range of people to get charges off.
Yeah, the assassin is one of the weird pieces on the team, because it feels like he's there to do the bodyguard duty, because the team has the same bodyguard ploy as Blooded or some of the other ones where you can jump into melee or in shooting. And then the Miraculous and the assassin both work together to defend the Confessor. The Miraculous has a better save in shooting, so she can get shot at. She can't really be killed, because the first time she dies, she comes back to life. And then the bodyguard, the Death Call assassin, goes to strike first in melee. So if your opponent tries to charge your Confessor, you can have the assassin take the fight, and then the assassin is 4 dice on 2s, 4/6, ceaseless, with go first for just parries. So pretty hard to actually get through. You'd basically have to spend 2 activations or 2 actions to get through the defensive bubbles to cut to the heart of the Sanctifier bubbles.
Man, after we're talking about this team, I'm so hyped to see what people do with them.
Yeah.
In a couple months after they come out.
They are either going to be really good or they're going to be just complete garbage because their on paper stats aren't that good. But if you can actually line everything up and your opponents play a little cagey, I think the team will basically abuse opponents who play too far back because you can always send a threatening piece after your opponent has moved into your opponent's line, pretty much guaranteed. Like you have a floor of a 12-inch move before you shoot, and you're probably going to give that person a comms buff before they do the 12-inch move into your opponent's territory anyways, and you'll probably be at about the 6 or 7-inch line. So having 18 inches of movement that your opponent, if they're not paying attention or they're just trying to play defensively, you will just always send the last activation is a melta gun or a flamethrower into the heart of your opponent's line and just absolutely nuke them.
Yeah, it seems to me like I'm going to predict that when the team launches, that the stats are going to be pretty bad for a couple of weeks because it's going to take a long time for people to figure things out. And then it's like once you know the combos, you got to like be able to manifest it on the tabletop. So it's gonna take a little while to cook, but someone like 2 to 6 months in is just gonna pop off and they're gonna just like blow up and have a week where they just jump up to 75% win rate with a low amount of player base, and just like someone's gonna go off, which is kind of the same thing I said about Ratlings, because like Ratlings also seem like they've got the potential to just like blow up and murder people.
Sounds like Sanctifiers are winning Nova. That's the prediction.
There we go.
Yeah.
Like Blades of Cain, where people were calling for 3-up saves on the Scorpions, and then look at them now.
They have been doing pretty good as far as like random weekly stats go. It has taken them a lot longer, I think, because Blades of Cain have basically made it through the editions unchanged. Like they didn't really get that many changes between their release and now, outside of the extra inch of movement. They got a couple tweaks, like Dire Avengers got a little bit better, but I don't think people are really taking 7 Dire Avengers. That's how that one dude at Worlds who played 8 Dire Avengers. So it's really like people had to learn how to play the cadence of the game, and then the switch from 6 to 3 objectives left elves a lot more room to spend their APL to do aggressive things, and now hordes are the ones struggling to find an identity in the edition.
Yeah, if Horde still had Piercing 2 Plasma, they'd be not struggling at all.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
If Vetguard still had crack spam, they'd be good too.
Yes.
Okay, let's not get ahead of her. I don't think we're gonna have.
Crack, I think every team should have cracks, infinite cracks, hitting on 2s.
Oh man, back in the day, in my day, we had 5 crack grenades or 5 frag grenades, and that was all anybody ever wanted to do. I was like, there's no way that this is the right strategy, guys. We could do better than 5 frag grenades as far as
surely there's more to life than this.
So what you guys are planning to do a bat rep for the teams, I assume? And are you guys going to try to do the Blood and Zeal pack that comes in the box with the team, or are you guys just going to play kind of like a normal game first?
I think we're going to start with a normal game.
Yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know, the box comes with a deck of cards called the Blood and Zeal deck, and one of them is a defensive deck, the other one is an offensive deck. At the beginning of every turn, you basically draw a card, and you can use them to get victory points. So basically, in the rules for the book, they tell you to remove one of the scoring tracks that normally exists in the game and replace it with the Blood and Zeal scoring mechanic. And then the statue that comes in the box, if you're standing next to it, you get to basically look at one of your cards before you draw the cards. Because normally you have 3 hidden pieces of information before you draw a card. So I was kind of curious, if you guys were planning to use it, but it sounds like, play the teams. There's enough going on and enough graphics to make for the poor video.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe we'll stream it. Who knows?
Yeah, it sounds like a good stream thing because there's less graphics to make. But and like the streams just generally are a bit wilder and less serious of a game. But I think we're probably gonna we're definitely doing the teams in the box, and then we'll probably do a couple of the teams each into a good matchup, whatever that is. Figure that
You
out.
could probably also do on stream. You can have people pay to like add extra cards.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. We always like doing the first battle report of a new box, featuring like at least one new team, and it's our first time playing them. And it's like, come on our journey of watching us like make the obvious misplays so you don't have to. Like we just try strategies that, like, for the first game I played with Rekkas, we filmed for a battle report, and it was my first game with him ever, and I got totally wrecked because I fell into the trap of we were on Into the Dark, and I didn't realize until like turning point 2 how bad the doors were going to be. And I was like playing normal Into the Dark strats of not being psycho and opening all the doors right away. But then like halfway through the game, I'm like, yo, this was the wrong thing to do. And now I've played Rekkas a bunch since then, and I basically do the Jason strat of like open all the doors right away, run up as far as I can, like yeet my squigs up as far as I can, smoke myself, and it's like, yeah, you can kill one of me first. You can't kill everybody first.
Exactly.
The best thing about the squigs is like, even if they win initiative and they kill a squig, they're unengaged. And I've baited some people into going engaged to kill a squig, and then I get blast 3 active on them and get like a triple shot against them. That's pretty good. Like, I'll sacrifice the squig to flip you to engage. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean the rocket rack is just crazy good. It's sad because the pulsa on the Rekkas sounded fun, but I fired it one time, got one hit after re-rolling, and I was like, I made a mistake gluing this on. I should have put the rocket rack.
I magnetized it. I'm very happy with that choice.
Yeah, it's definitely, the rocket rack is just so good. Like blast 3 is an impossible thing for people to imagine until you've gotten hit by it probably like 3 times.
Yeah.
How's the local scene up in Canada for you guys been going? I know you guys have gone out to a couple tournaments here and there, or you guys mostly just been doing the YouTube game as of late?
No, it's the local scene is thriving. We've got a really active scene right now. I say recently, but I guess it was like almost 3 months ago at this point. But we had the biggest tournament in Canada. 40 people at a tournament that Shane came and won, making us the 51st state officially.
Get out of here.
The same folks are putting on another one soon. So hopefully it's as well attended. But there's like in the kind of Toronto to Niagara Buffalo corridor, and kind of like an hour on every side of that. There's like a lot of cool little local pockets of some really competitive kill team communities, and the level, like, it's great because there's really solid players who are pushing each other, and getting really good, like certainly better than me. It was funny, yesterday I was at a game store playing in my Blood Bowl league, and I saw these 2 guys there that I have like recognized from a few tournaments, and they were like grinding a game of Kill Team. It was like they were both like on the ground checking everything and like kind of collaborating on like, what do you think? Like, is this what I should do here? Like, they were definitely like in the shed with this thing. And then I was talking to them later, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm, gotta get the reps in because trying to go get my GT in a couple weeks in Montreal. And it was like, oh man, these guys are serious. They must really like this game.
Victor, do you remember like the year before I had my son, and we actually practiced Kill Team, and like in the span of like 3 to 4 months, we were grinding TTS games, and we brought ourselves out of Shadow Realm. We did it.
Yeah.
We got like from Shadow Realm to C tier in like a few
But now
months.
that I'm like in a 40k league and a Blood Bowl league, I'm back in Shadow Realm because my brain can't handle more than one thought at once. Can barely handle the rules to more than one game system at once.
Yeah.
I mean,
Valid.
I think that's one of the good things about Kill Team is it is startlingly easy for you to get better, and then the retention is the hard part because things are always changing. Whenever a new pair of teams releases, you have to do the bare minimum homework at tournament level play to kind of at least understand what your opponent wants to do with the team. which is upkeep, which is not something that everyone has room in their life for. You know, if you've got kids or you've got Blood Bowl, so you can roll a bunch of ones and get triggered as you miss your touchdowns.
That's what the game's all about. But it is interesting because like I've been, obviously like and it's funny because I kind of use these leagues. I like evangelize Kill Team, and I'm like I'm spreading the good word and bringing people in. But it is interesting, like as I've gotten deeper into other systems, it's made me realize that like homework is such an important part of being a decent Kill Team player. It's like not only like learn the teams, know what the teams do, but also like keep up with the chatter and like what are people doing with these teams, because there's just like it's such a flexible game, and I guess like in the grand scheme of war games, it's still such a fresh game, especially in the edition, that there's like so much discovery going on all the time, which is such a like it's an exciting piece of Kill Team, but it makes like when I like the good Kill Team players out there, I mean like you guys and the other people that like kick ass at this game, it's like this must be a full-time job to being good at Kill Team. It's and it feels like maybe it's just because it's the game that I'm most invested in, and it's the one that I see it in the most. But it feels like there's just like it's just constantly evolving at such a rapid rate compared to some of the other systems out there.
I think it's also the gift of Kill Team is because it is a smaller system, more people have the time to do the homework in comparison to some of the larger scale games, and even some of the less popular games. Because in Blood Bowl, you're not really incentivized to go like, oh, I wonder what everyone else is doing, because you're really there to like, I built my dudes, they're cool, I want to play them with my rules.
Well, and the thing that I've like really appreciated about Blood Bowl coming from Kill Team is that every team has access to the same set of skills. And so like I know what block does on every team, and it's like you go to a game and it's like which of your guys have block, whereas Kill Team, it's like every team has 10 operatives that have 10 separate special skills to keep track of. And like there's obviously upsides and downsides to that, right? Like it's kind of an endlessly deep game for that reason, but at the same time like it's so much harder to play into a team that you are not familiar with. It's like much harder to like pick up a game of Kill Team. But at the and the trade-off is that it's there's more to pick up and more to dig into, and you'll never stop.
I did brutalize a local player recently with Pathfinders. He was on Felgor. He was like learning Felgor, and I put a grav drone on top of a Volcus stronghold, and then like body block the ability to charge on top of the Volcus stronghold, and he just like couldn't get into the middle box without spending 4 AP8 worth of actions. Because the grav drone is the most messed up piece of tech that the Pathfinders have, because it says every time you take an action that you move, you lose 2 inches of movement to a minimum of 2.
Oof. Yeah.
So your dash is dropped in half or in a third, and then all of your moves and charges are basically dropped by 2 inches. So if you stand on a Volcus box, your opponent just can't charge you sometimes. And since he was Felgor, he had no other options for interacting with the piece, and he just sat there dominating the board, which is hilarious.
Yeah,
but like you kind of have to as a Pathfinder player. I hit on 4. Got a bunch of rules that don't do anything.
Yeah, and I mean like that's the kind of a classic Kill Team thing until the like 3rd and 4th round at the top tables of tournaments. Like you win games by just knowing how to play the game, and like having an understanding of action economy and stuff. Like the learning curve is extremely punishing for new players. But that's what makes it extremely satisfying for experienced players.
Smash
you
moves,
just,
right?
you just got to suck for a while, and whatever. It's the way she goes.
And I think this box, just like all the other boxes for Kill Team, and I think this box especially, does a good job of selling the experience of Warhammer 40k, which is a big reason why even when you are going to your local and getting absolutely dumpstered by your local sweatmonger, it can still be fun, because you're like, oh, I'm playing the Sanctifiers. I have no idea what I'm doing. Every time my Confessor moves, everybody follows him along, and that is a fun little story in itself. Or like for the Goremongers players who are about to unleash themselves on the world, everyone's got blood. You get to move around with faster legs, jump on top of people, chop them in half, and just split their insides and drink their blood. Like, that's a fun thing. Even if your opponent is going to absolutely dumpster you, you can still enjoy those experiences along the way.
Definitely.
Because the fluff is so entwined in how the rules are written for Kill Team to begin with.
Yeah, true.
Except for the poor infiltration players stuck on the dwarves. Sorry for the Hernken Jaeger players. It's it do be rough out there, it seems.
That's right. I'm a one-box breacher player, so I know what pain is.
Well, luckily, they nerfed the breacher so that the one-box build is the only build you're allowed to play.
Yeah, right.
And that is where we originally ended the episode, but we ended up recording another additional snippet after we had all played the team. And came back, and here's our opinions after playing the team. But before we do that, we've got a quick shout out to our sponsor, Crossfire Games. We will also have ad-free versions of the podcast available on Patreon.
Jason, how are you liking your Crossfire Games token set?
The Crossfire Games token set is absolutely amazing. I have a little Kill Team backpack that I put my Kill Team in, put all my tokens in, and now instead of having a bunch of little sandwich bags and a tin that I put my tokens in, I have it all in this nice little box with the scorecard and everything. So like when I unpack for a game, there's just the Kill Team and then this box, and it just feels so much more like mobile and organized. And like the quality of the tokens is really, really good. The like vibrancy of the colors is amazing. Super convenient to have all of the universal equipment in there as well. I am extremely impressed by it and very, very glad to have it. What about you?
Yeah, I think I was very impressed. Like, I agreed to kind of at least take a look at it. Having seen them at Worlds, I knew that the print quality was pretty good. But I think in person, the 3D printing, there's a lot of different kinds of 3D printing at this point, and I think FDM printing has come a long way. And the token set is quite nice, and it's nicer than the actual GW set, mostly because I can still see the tokens when they're off, just because they're black and not blue, dark blue that blends in with the board. So I appreciate that part. And I like that on the set that I have, there's room for like the specific tokens for your faction too, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, the faction tokens and the universal tokens and the like all of your basic order tokens and everything all fit in one little box that fits within the box. And with that, like you can probably even fit more. Yeah, it's pretty sick.
Yeah. So definitely a fan of the product, and if anyone supports us, honestly, be great. I think my big thing is chaos boxes just make games take longer, and people got to play faster. And having organization definitely helps there. Having your engaged tokens in one spot and your concealed tokens in another, and like your recover items and all that other stuff. Organization makes for a cleaner game, keeps your brain in a better spot for playing, and I think these sorts of tools are great, whether it's Crossfire Games or other things. Having some organization is quite important.
Yep, definitely highly recommend it. And back to the episode.
Well, we had the podcast ahead of this, and now we've had a little bit more time to noodle around with the actual miniatures. And how are we feeling about our original takes?
I have to apologize for the disrespect I showed the conflagrator. I say he was trash tier garbage. Again?
Is that the double guy?
Like the dual? Yeah. So like I think I evaluated him based on facing Space Marines, because in my normal life I face so many Space Marines, but actually, like against anything that's not a Space Marine, this guy is so good. Like, and to be fair,
it's like a solid chance that you just get to do the attack, and your opponent's like, "Oh, I'm just on fire now."
Yeah. It's also like so specifically good against the Goremongers. Like, because you almost always are going to get 8 damage, and then it's like, yeah, fuck you, you're just going to die on your own activation anyway. Like, the math lines up so nicely.
Yeah.
That was something that me and Jason bumped into when we were noodling around, too, is that the Conflagrator Flame, or like any of the flame weapons, if you get, a little bit above average, your opponent's taking like 50-50s on whether or not they get a chance to even use Rejuvenate, which is, and like in the matchup when you're already up 3 activations, if your opponent goes to activate and they just like light on fire and die, you're like, sick. I guess I'll go again.
Yeah, it definitely like it swung our game. That was like the difference between
Well, should we say like a quick
few
spoiler
victory
alert
points.
for our battle report? If people are watching this and they're maybe gonna watch our battle report,
Oh yeah,
spoiler
pause.
alert. Yeah,
Pause. Go watch. Go watch. We'll give it. We'll pause a second so that everyone hit the pause button.
And then go watch the battle report, of course.
And now that
then
we're
come
back, we've hit unpause.
Yeah, it was a draw. But it was like it shouldn't have been a draw. It was a really messy draw, but there was like one moment in TP3 where the conflagrator brought my impaler down to 2 wounds, and it's like, okay, if you roll a 1 or a 2, I'm gonna win this game, and if you roll a 3 up, we're probably not gonna win this game. But it was a nice math.
Like, I don't know what your guys' experience was, but for us, we this is our first time since the new edition dropped that we had a score at the end of Turning Point 1, because we actually had kill-op points at the end of Turning Point 1, and
we did test that, yeah.
There were like 4 operatives left at the end of Turning Point 2.
that actually sounds exactly like our first. I think our second test game, we did something very similar. Yeah. Like our first round, we just kind of played a little normally, and then we tried the turn 1 shenanigans, and then I think turn 1 shenanigans might be a little much. There are ways to play around it. Like you can just not leave your drop zone, and it's probably advised.
Yeah. And like don't go near objective markers.
Don't even leave your drop zone, which is something that I have bumped into a couple times now on a couple teams where like Pathfinders can shut 2 13-inch models. We just had Alexa, or we're going to have Alexa on in the near future. And he's also talking about 15-inch turn 1 moves, which give you, a little bit of aggression on turn 1. So it's like, oh, I touched this objective. Like, all right, I'm in your face. I'm going to shoot you. But this team really juices that to like 11.
Yeah.
They juice it to like 17, which is also the number of inches they charge you from.
Yeah, so insane.
It's pretty crazy, and definitely in this box matchup, the Goremongers, when they're getting out activated like that, it's kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It is, but I was really surprised by the playability of the Goremongers. Like I was expecting to be out of blood all the time and like just not have the resources, but I really felt like every time I needed something, it was there. Like I thought the tools work really nicely, and the aspirants are like the best operative on the team. I think they're so
insane. Good. Yeah, they're super good.
There's a lot more flexibility on just like the movement lanes when you can finish and keep going. I think a bunch of other teams in the game right now are pretty good with that. Like Nemesis Clava once a turn, Felgor have it. So having this on a couple of operatives just gives you a lot more lanes that you're forcing your opponent to interact with. And I assume the aspirants played big in the video.
I mean, like yes and no. Like because I only have 2 of them. But it's just like I caught a glimpse of why I actually want 7 of them.
Yeah. Unfortunately for you, the one time that he got like a second charge off, it was into the miraculous, and I was just like, haha.
Well, but it's still like
it shut her down.
I still with 1 aspirant killed like the Melta Gunner, a preacher, and then brought the miraculous down to 1 wound.
Yeah,
like, that's pretty good for a dork.
That's very good.
And it really made me think about Felgor, which was like I think the last team that I was as excited for out of the box, but their melee is so much more reliable and their tricks are so much more like practically playable. I think that like this is the team that I always wanted Felgor to be, and I'm just so happy. And their survivability is much less punishing, I think, to both players than Frenzy is. So in terms of like, comparing to the most recent melee horde, I'm really happy with them.
Yeah, I'm pretty jazzed about them as well. Like my favorite thing about second edition, one of them was the just pure Khorne Legionary thing where you had just like the chain lightning charge. I forgot what that point was called, but it was like you fight. Or it's like at the end of a fight, if you're not in control range, you can immediately charge someone. And I was like, oh, this is so cool to have team-wide. And now, like, you can bring that back with Goremongers if you do all warriors. And there's some silliness, and I'm definitely going to try it out at least, like, a couple times.
For sure. For sure. I think depending on what my hobby schedule is like, we're gonna do another battle report soon of like both of these teams against something else. But I'm gonna try to, throw together a few more aspirants to have in there.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, after playing them a couple times, the preachers are just so nice to have. The ability to just launch a couple extra dudes on aggression to go finish a sermon in your opponent's drop zone or like in your opponent's half from the midboard is just some crazy flexibility that feels definitely a little too rude.
Yeah.
And the missionaries with holy relics also pretty nice to have.
I think the Holy Relic is fully just way better than the Brazier of Holy Fire.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if that ends up being the case.
That positioning and like flexibility, because the Brazier of Holy Fire is like a pistol and a melee weapon, but it doesn't do anything else. And then what's the thing we were just talking about is the Holy Relic or whatever is
sermon at all times.
You're in sermon at all times, so you just have permanent damage reduction. And can't you like have a chainsword? Like I wasn't fully keeping track of what was going on. Like, there's a guy that has like that and also has a chainsword and also has a 4/4 damage flamer. Like, what is going on? Craziness.
Yeah, the melt-a-gun comes with a holy relic and a chainsword, so he's just good at everything with 8 wounds at -1 damage flat. So he just kind of cruises around the edge of the board, nuking people. And if you swing back around and you get within 6 of your leader, you can just relentless melt-a-gun someone.
Rude.
Yeah. Rude. It's a rude team. It's a really rude team.
It is a rude team. I would not be surprised if they get tapped.
Yeah.
To be fair, we did play a game with Space Marines, and it was a little harder to crack power armor. So it might be that the 14 wound 3-up saves.
Very important to note that it was also Into the Dark, and Guard helps enormously to fend off this just like tidal wave of group activation goons. Because if you just like Guard all over the place, it's way harder for them to run you down. But like if we did that again on open, I think it would be a lot tougher because then I can't guard and you can just run up and mob a dude. I mean, there's still like a couple tools out there, but like if you don't know what you're about to get into and your opponent like has a good plan for this team, you are going to get your socks rocked. So like hold on to your hats because this team is gnarly. Sanctifiers is completely wow.
Hold on to your socks and your hat. That's how hard you're getting rocked.
It's kind of like, I feel like the season so far, the edition, been like every box they've upped the ante of how crazy and ridiculous stuff is. You know, the first box, Vespids and the Aquilons, they're like pretty tame. They had some like interesting stuff, but
it's like the gimmick is like, one team, half of it's not on the board, and the other team is just like not even a real kill team.
Yeah. Then, Rekka Crew was like, whoa, you got like some crazy guns, good at fighting. And the rattlings were a bit weird. But now this box is crazy, and I'm almost scared. Like, if there's one more box coming, what are we going to see?
Yeah.
Yeah, the power level has definitely ramped up really hard. It's really sad that the first box of this edition was like, if you were a new player picking up Kill Team, you learn nothing about the game because neither team is playing Kill Team. Like, I'm going to drop in, halfway up the board and interact with none of the terrain rules and just shoot and pray. And Vesper like, I'm just going to ignore movement entirely.
Yeah. I'm
we get to
basically a 1 APL team.
Yeah, we get to Rekkas and Rattlings are like, I'm going to build a wall of junk and pray that you can't get past it. And the Rekkas are, I'm going to roll a bunch of dice and pray as like the core mechanics. And this one is just bonkers off the wall movement shenanigans everywhere.
Yeah.
One of us is going to lose by the end of Turning Point 2. This is not a 4 Turning Point game anymore with this box.
Yeah, and it's hilarious because they were trying to say like, oh, we're going to make the game less violent on turn 1, and then this pair of teams can get out pretty far.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and it's interesting in our game that we were playing, like, I was still playing good old fashioned Kill Team and just trying to like move everyone up safely and get ready to threaten some charges for Turning Point 2. And then all of a sudden there was this flamer with 3 APL that hadn't activated yet, 6 inches from like my line. It's like, okay, I guess I'm going to start dealing with this stuff now. Like the trades are starting early and I couldn't even kill it.
Yeah, no, it was funny because when me and Jason were noodling around, we were like, if you had shoved that model on engage, at least you could have counteracted right after I come up to go do the thing. And it was just like, well, you kind of have to know a turn of heads. So this is one of those teams where you're like, you got to have a game plan going in, kind of like how Void Dancers. You have to treat the game fundamentally like a different way when you look at them.
Yeah.
And Sanctifiers definitely there. Although maybe for Space Marines, you can still kind of wade through the muck a little bit.
We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know how I would approach that matchup.
As the Sanctifiers?
As the Sanctifiers. Do you ever consider... You always got to take the Melter, right? You're never considering the Plasma Gun, right?
Nah,
and the Plasma Gun can't take the
is
Relic.
Yeah.
Is
I mean,
there
like, they
any
made
matchup you would take the Plasma?
Probably not.
Probably not, right? Because it just seems like... I mean, it is nice to have one full range piece, I guess. And I could see some use, like, in our game... Just having one guy at the back, because you were going on engage all over the place, and there were definitely shots I could have taken. But also, you're hitting on 4s, and you only have one purity seal.
The real thing is like you don't have a lot of shooting rerolls, so it's just like a raw hitting on 4s.
Yeah,
it's like it's okay, but when you look at like the Melta, you're like, well, if he gets in trouble, he pulls out a chainsword, he can still do stuff. The Plasma Gun, it's like. I don't know. It's pretty interesting. Maybe if we ever get back to the world where there are just like straight up shootouts, you can do Plasma Gun with the conversion field behind like a portable barricade, and then you're back on like saving on 3s with the Plasma Gun that's never gonna die in one sequence. That could be reasonable. I mean, the miraculous bait behind a portable barricade with a conversion field is also hilarious because you're just like, it's a literally impossible model to kill. Oh man, are you guys gonna take these out out on the town when you're ready to play with them, or are you gonna keep them in the box until the first changes?
No, well, it depends. Like, I mean, I've already been using the Blood Herald as a master of executions and not telling anyone. But no, definitely. I think it'll be fun to just like try them out in the real world. I mean, I don't know if you guys get this, but like there's the kill team that I play in real life, and then there's like the 2-person meta of Mountainside Tabletop where we play. I think we both like play our hardest against each other a lot of the time. And so I'm looking forward to playing like normal real life kill team with these and just to see how they run, because I think they're going to be a lot of fun. But it's never fun when we play each other.
I disagree. I have fun beating
I'm kidding. It's fun, but I mean, like just with not because of each other, but just like with like cameras and taking 7 minutes for every dice roll.
Yeah, there's a lot of distractions.
It's just a way to play kill team, Yeah,
you don't get to like just enjoy the game.
Yeah, like whenever I play kill team in my normal life, it's like I'm always like taken aback at how like easy the experience of playing a game of kill team is when you're not like resetting your camera and lights after everything,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I definitely can't wait for that.
Another thing we do sometimes when we're filming is like we try and get multiple activations in the same shot. So we'll like say what we're doing and roll dice for like 5-6 activations, but the board hasn't been updated. So we're kind of having to like keep track of like, oh yeah, so that guy's gonna be there. That guy's dead by this time.
Yeah, it's a little bit like playing blindfold chess sometimes.
Yeah.
It does make sense. I mean, you guys are a 2-man show, so you don't have like the staff of something like 40 minutes where they have like an extra person doing some of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, definitely. Like,
I mean, you guys, the battle reports have been good, and we're excited. I'm sure everyone who's watched the actual battle report has gotten to close the loop a little bit after hearing you guys talk about the team.
Definitely.
Yeah. I'm super jazzed. I very much enjoy my conversions because for all the things on this, like as much as the Inquisitorial Agents box has no ability to be very flexible, this box, all the bits are pretty flexible. Like I was able to kit bash together the rest of my missionaries, rest of my preachers, and I feel like they look pretty good. I'm pretty happy with them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I considered doing that, but honestly, I just love the sculpt so much. I don't mind splitting another box with someone. And it's a 3-way split because somebody's buying the statue.
Oh yeah.
So
a lot of people want that
savings,
statue. Yeah.
Basically free. You'd be losing money if you don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge
expense.
fan of the Goremongers. Just like the regular dudes with the glaives are super cool. And like for the times that I want to run a bunch of warriors, like I have some jackals and I painted them up to match perfectly. But I'm like, there's a tingling part of me that's like, get more glaive, guys.
I have 40 bloodletters, and I think those will work as perfect proxies for aspirants with or without human legs anyway, just to try out the build.
Yes.
But I'm curious, Travis, Jason, you're the Goremonger guy.
Mm-hmm.
In your like multiple warrior build, what are the specialists you're taking every time?
So I haven't fully decided yet, but if I was gonna take only one specialist, it would either be the Skull Claimer or the Blood Comms guy. I forget what he's called.
Yeah.
Which guy's the Blood Comms guy?
He's the dude with the bloody dagger. And then, like, the reason that I would take him, I mean, like, I hate the fact that he's 3-5 in melee, but if there's only one guy that's a little bit worse, it's not the end of the world, especially with, like, the rake ability from the Sangue Vitae. So it's like you charge him, you do D3, you soften it up so the breakpoints aren't going to ruin you, and then you can still kill things in, like, 1 or 2 hits, like everyone else. And not like 2 or 3, which is, like, if you don't soften things up, it's, like, pretty risky that you don't just get smacked around.
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get much of a chance to use. That was like the one that had to be sacrificed to stop Brad from just like flaming my whole team before I was able to move. Like someone had to die for this, and it was gonna be it's like they were just in the wrong spot at the wrong time. But yeah, the Skull Claimer for sure. That I think the Skull Claimer is insanely good.
Also,
5-6
super
is
cool.
kind of hard to beat.
Gets you command points. Huge. Takes less damage.
Yeah, getting command points and taking less damage feel like the best kill team abilities in 2025. Like all the best stuff is getting command points and taking less damage, it seems. And out of activation movement, I guess.
Yeah, out of activation movement, the team.
Yeah, exactly. Also taking less damage, the team.
Yes. Killed less team.
Yeah.
So the Blood Comms guy, essentially you put the bloody cadaver wherever you're going to deploy him. He picks it up. Then in the ready step, he generates a blood point that he hands off to whoever you're going to missile out. And then he's just your backline guy that gives out blood tokens to send people out on full tanks.
That was the plan. He was right beside the cadaver.
But so yep. I had a similar problem where I was like, okay, my guy that was staged the most forward was the Scorpion guy, the get over here, shoot you with the chain, pull you in.
There were 3 dudes on top of him.
Yep. Yeah. So I was like, I'll, stage up. And then Travis was like, oh yeah, so I feel like we have to try out that the crazy movement thing. And then I was like, I didn't like click what that was going to mean. And then like once he started moving around, I was like, wait a second, you can move ready and not ready operatives, just everyone within sermon. And we're like, yes, so that is 10 out of 11 models on the team. It was just like, oh, okay. Yep, they're coming in hot.
It takes me seeing it on the board to understand how terrible it was.
This is truly GA12.
We made a mistake. They're all right there. And he hasn't charged yet. Cool.
Yeah. Oh, man. And then in the middle of that, Jason's like, these guys could have been on Engage for the counteract. I was like, they could have been.
But
I mean,
now,
one can counteract from Conceal.
Yeah, because now with Gorethirst, I should have... Well, actually, I think I did Gorethirst, but
You did Gorethirst, and then I exploded, and then
out.
damaged the other 2 and put Blaze on everyone. I was like, well, this is...
I was like, everyone should have been engaged. Why do I even use Conceal? I've done this.
Yeah, the Blaze ploy, the explosive death is just so powerful on a 2-inch explosion.
Oh, they
it was
both,
literally
both
like
teams have an explosive death.
Yeah,
I used mine.
Demise.
Did you?
Yeah, but it didn't end up mattering.
Oh, is that the Conflagrator used it, right?
Yeah, on one guy, just because I was like, may as well.
Yeah, me and Jason, it definitely mattered.
I wish the Goremonger's Deadly Demise ploy, I wish it was everyone in their engagement range. I hate that it's just one person in their engagement range, because it would be so much fun to just throw in a blood bomb.
Have you tried playing Sanctifiers?
Yeah.
So the Sanctifiers explode is just Blaze tokens, right? There's no damage.
Yeah, it is just Blaze tokens, but it's just like a guaranteed D3 damage. So it's like on the guys that use Suicide Missile, like they just have an extra D3 baked into it, and it's a 2-inch explosion, which is
I feel like a lot of the explosions are within control range, and the fact that this is a 2-inch D3 flat damage,
And it
either
doesn't even
penalties.
harm your own people.
Yeah, it can't hit your own dudes, which is it's just super flexible.
Really good.
Yeah, I would be very surprised after doinking around with them. Like individually, the stats aren't anything to write home about, but they do match up reasonably well into I think the rest of the meta outside of probably Space Marines. So I would expect Sanctifiers to get doinked. But one ability I wasn't really expecting to be that good was the Confessors like yell at someone when they come in range. And in me and Jason's game, his Blood Herald came in, got stuck, and then just got blitzed.
Yeah, I tried so hard to use it, and Victor just like played around it.
No, but like it was really effective in that I had to play the whole game 6.1 inches away from the Confessor. You know, like
Well,
so
it was like
many
one of
things
those
I wanted
things where
to
like
do.
the ball was in the middle, and when Jason went in, he was like, "Oh, now we take a 50-50 on whether or not I get to play the game." And I was like, "True," and then he got stuck, and then the assassin came in, like chopped him in half.
Yeah.
I think there was like a sequence where an assassin made it through 3 separate combat steps because of the -1 damage and going first, and just bonkers.
To
the
be
Justice
frank, I think
Scratch.
they could straight up. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it was like the Blood Herald got in there and like fought 3 times and killed no one, and the assassin just like soaked it up and killed me. It was ridiculous, insane.
Okay, so that was like the exact same way our game ended. So it seems like maybe it's just a Blood Herald problem.
Were you killed by the assassin also? Because I think it's an assassin.
No, I
problem.
was killed by a conflagrator who I forgot was buffed, who fell back and flamed me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I got 4 kills with him.
Yeah.
He was
That's
crazy. 3 or
ridiculous.
4 kills. He did work, man. And I was so rude to him before when we talked.
That's true.
Earlier on this very podcast.
Yeah, earlier today.
So I know you
Oh,
guys
man.
are big fans of hidden tech. I think Vic might have found a small piece of hidden tech already.
Ooh.
Ooh.
So he used this in our game. It didn't really make a difference, but so he went confirm kill, and he had the come here guy, and he pulled the body close before he died just to get the confirm kill token on his
Nice.
body.
I don't even think that's hidden. I think that's what it's for.
He's just like
No.
kind of in a weird like it's a really interesting model because it reads like you're definitely gonna shoot someone, but at the same time it's an 8-inch gun, so it's like you still have to be in like weird positions before you get the shot off.
Yeah,
But it's very flavorful.
it is. I love that you don't have to inflict damage. I don't know, like that's gonna take that's gonna take a real situation to come up and be useful. But I love that it's an option.
Yeah, it's like if someone's being super duper cagey against you, and then you pull someone 2 inches, and like let's say I get like 4 crits and they fail all their saves. I'm like, I'm gonna do 5 damage. So you've got 2 health left, and then I'm gonna pull you 2 inches closer, and now you're in charge range of my, whoever who's now gonna charge you and then not fight. And now I've got like my teeth sunk into your lines. And the next turn, then you just like kill the thing that you trapped, and then charge into someone else, and then like kill them, and then chain lightning charge because you're an aspirant.
I was gonna say, yeah, use it to like start the chain charge. Like just bring someone to like whatever 2 inches plus control range plus a 32 mil base is away from their nearest friend.
And then if someone carefully positions so they can't get chain lightning charged, and then you just like pull someone into it, I don't know, that seems like it'd be very hard to do. But then all of a sudden, you're just like,
but imagine the one time it works. What a
Yeah,
genius
the
you'll feel
Impaler
like.
is for sure the model that's like, have you dreamt this large before? The model.
Yeah.
and I think realistically he's gonna be like the first one I would drop. But like,
Yeah, probably.
but he's cool.
I mean, the Climber is the Climber's pretty good though, right? Like the
Climber's
guy who just ignores.
Climber on
ignores
Volcus
vantage
always, Climber on Gallodark, replace him 100% of the time. Because it's
Yeah.
literally all he does is climb for 2, which is useless, and fight better on Vantage or dropping off a Vantage, which does not exist. So literally just Gallodark 100% just replace him with another warrior. And on Volcus, just 100% take him. Because like with that extra inch and climbing anything for 2, it'll be like someone's in the sniper nest, and then you're like, I just charge you from what feels like 27 inches away and like cut your head off.
Yeah. Okay, so back to the Impaler. I love that drop distance isn't counted, so sniper nest no longer safe. The come here becomes get down here.
Just yoink people. Can you pull them over
Yeah.
walls? I didn't even think about that. Like, can you like?
I mean, I think so.
You
that'd be
ignore
cool.
drop. I don't know if it ignores climb though.
It doesn't ignore climb, but I think you can like pay to climb.
Yeah, that did come up
It
in our
should
game.
ignore
and
climb.
It should
Go
ignore like just pull them through the wall.
Yeah.
Remove
What if
the
it's
terrain.
like one of those graded windows and it like
says ignore. Oh no, it's only when it's dropping. So climbing, yeah, I guess you should be able to like pull the winch and like wind them up the wall.
Yeah, that's what like I had 6 inches of pulling movement, and so he went over a wall and moved 4 inches. Like I think that's kind of how that works.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah,
it's
just like
it's
standing on
pretty
top of a
interesting.
vantage and just fishing for idiots. You just like
Yeah.
pull them up out of the building with you.
Bob would be so good too. Oh my god, I love that. It didn't even occur to me as a way to pull people up to a vantage point.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Witness this kill as you gore them in the
Yeah,
middle of the map. Yeah. An interesting pair of teams. And, you know, I put a little bit of disrespect on the drill abbot. I was like, maybe I drop him. Turns out, you know, between sermon and just having a bunch of dudes, anytime someone is kept alive at like 1 or 2 wounds,
Yeah.
being able to ignore injury, it's like, yeah, you know what? Ended up being pretty nice.
Big.
Also, I really appreciate the weapon stat line of 4 on 4s doing 4/4 damage.
There's a little bit of satisfaction. Just
Is
Yeah,
it
being
also
that way.
brutal?
he's
Brutal and shock.
Yeah,
Yeah.
brutal shock.
he's going golfing.
Yeah,
Yeah, with someone's head.
good one.
He's got the ball in tow. I never that ability didn't really do anything. Its existence does mess with the Goremongers a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, it didn't come up
Which
for
one?
you guys. The APL negation, no.
No, I
Neither
think by
of
the
us.
time we got there, it was too late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like by the
There were
end
too
of
many
turn
models
1 in
on
our
fire
game,
at that point.
yeah, it was literally like you killed 2, and then I had 2 guys with 2 health that were on fire. So I was like, I have 4 guys that like can play the game, and I hadn't done any damage to anyone. And I was just like, one of them died in the activation, and then one of them, like, it was like the blood comms guy, and I was like, man, if this guy would have been an aspirant, then like every single model was positioned for a double kill if it was an aspirant. So I was like, this is more fuel for just bring all aspirants.
Yeah. I buy it.
Yeah, the 4/5 damage flat definitely helps a lot in
And
this
rending.
specific book matchup. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
just like hitting the crit just gives you a lot more room to actually kill someone in one
and
shot.
how nice is the one ploy to get severe after all the dice are rolled?
Unbridled aggression. Yeah.
Yeah, pairs so nicely with rending. Love that.
Yeah, so then it's like you pay 1 command point for 2 crits. It's kind of
But that's what I mean with this
bananas.
team. It's like a lot of their stuff, like it's I mean, easy is the wrong word, but like practical. And it's like the tools are there when you need them. It's like you don't need to do like too much Rube Goldberg setup. It's like if you've just done a bad attack, it's like, oh shit, what do I have? What are my ploys? Like, oh yeah, this'll save me. There's always something ready to help you.
Yes. Whereas like, yeah, 'cause
Something
exactly. Like some teams you like have to set up all these combos and stuff, all these like specialists, but this is like
Yeah.
the only like combo-y, I mean, I guess like the skewer guy is kind of combo-y, and then like the
Yeah.
blood comms just wants to be in the back, and that like is almost combo-y, but it really is just like everyone can go out and like stand on their own and like do their own thing,
Yeah.
and every single ploy and every single sanguine vitae is good for every single operative, and it's like it's amazing.
Yeah,
Really.
One thing I was really impressed by was the healing, because like I couldn't shut up to Victor. Like, how many times is your medic just like never in the right place when you need them? Like the
Yeah.
guy who needs the healing is across the board, or they're already like tied up, engaged with someone, and you can't get the heal off, or whatever, blah blah blah. But having a heal basically whenever you need it, like it's so much more useful.
A counteract 0 APL 2d3 heal team wide. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, and like because it doesn't need the APL. It's like when you activate. So instead of being like, oh man, I want this low health melee operative to heal, but it's like instead of needing someone to go heal them and then activate, it's like you select them, they heal, they go. Much more helpful.
So another funny thing that came up in our game was I had a guy at 2 health with a blaze token, but Vic was able to counteract and do the thing where he healed on his counteract to like avoid just dying.
From Conceal, no less.
Yeah, that was a shame.
Huge.
But
yeah. Yeah, it's they've got a nice set of abilities, and I kind of get the sense that like you can go for the ultra aggression on the Goremongers, but there's also like building up your blood tank so that everyone is full, and then at the beginning of 3, you're just like, oh, everyone has a full blood tank. We're turning on every single ploy, and suddenly the balance of like, will I do something? Will I won't do things? Like, well, I'm just gonna have 5 attacks with balanced and half damage when I go in, and I'm gonna move further if I need to, and you just like murder people in a whole new way.
I was
Half
creeping.
damage.
What do you mean half damage?
No, the half damage is so good. I
Yeah.
was gonna
Oh
say,
yeah,
like,
you're
I
saying
forgot
yeah, it
about
was
that.
good.
Like,
I was like,
in
how
all
could
the,
you
like-
forget about that, dude?
Yeah,
It
I
was
was like, in
so
all the
good.
amazing things about this team, how did I forget that? Which is like, so again, it's like the perfect tool for the team that's there when you need it.
It's like lots of teams have half damage, but it's usually with some kind of restriction. And here it's
Mhm.
just like, nah, you just get it every time. Enjoy.
Wish I had taken it turn 1, and then I wouldn't have had to worry so much about what
Yeah,
you were
that's
doing.
the thing, because you're not used to putting on all the defensive plays on turn 1, and then I got so much work done before you turned it on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me and Jason very much had a similar thing.
Yeah.
At the end of turn 1, we're like, oh, there's 3 activations and they're all going to be offensive ones, and one of them has 3 APLs. Like, that is what we're doing right now.
Yeah, we are rolling dice and turning point
Yeah.
1. Buckle up.
Honestly, anything to make my games shorter, I'm here for it. And not because I want less time playing Kill Team, but just like, if I can be almost tabled and you're almost tabled by the end of turn 2, I think that's a good game for everybody.
Agreed.
Yeah, just a little bit of ultra violence. I think that Sanctifiers are definitely going to be like a big bully team against like the elf teams. Good luck, guys.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking that.
If you want to play an elf team and you're going to play against Sanctifiers, that's just like almost a hard L instantaneously. Like I can't
all their
imagine.
breakpoints are so good into elves, into 8 health. It's so good.
It's just going to be a slaughter field. As long as you're so like the one thing is if you do the thing in the Sanctifiers where you just build what the box tells you to build, you only have 1 preacher. That's probably not going to do it. But if you have 3 preachers and both of your missionaries with holy relics, there's no shot an elf team is ever going to survive, because the turn 1 blitz is just.
I was thinking, like, how good is the Conflagrator against elves? Because there's a good chance you're getting 6 damage through, and then there's a 2 and 3 that they just die on their own activation.
Yeah.
It's so good.
And it's not like unheard of that you would just kill an elf in one shot with the flamethrower.
Yeah, that can also happen for sure. Yeah.
The fact that you don't do a lot per hit, but just the fact that you have so many dudes that hit on 2s just means that you're kind of fundamentally shooting a different output when you get in range compared to most of the teams that are shooting right now. All right. Any other last major callouts we want to have on this little add-on to the back end?
This
Blood and
box
Zeal.
slaps. Victor and I were saying this is our most hype box for like the 2 of us combined since Gallowfall, I think.
Yeah.
That was the last box we were both like so excited for.
Yeah. Me and Jason kind of similarly, and then after getting all the pieces and building everything, like pretty fun build.
Yeah.
Have you played with the cards yet?
We have not. You guys, yeah.
I
read
read through a dream, but
Yeah.
it seems like an okay concept. Like you're replacing one of the scoring tracks with the deck of cards. Just not a super high up on the list at the moment.
For me, I feel like the last thing my kill teams need my kill team games need is like more bookkeeping and extra abilities to keep track of. Like barely hanging on as it is. So I don't know. It's not, like you said, not high up on the list, but we'll certainly try it at some point.
mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I guess for the second time on the podcast, thanks Mountainside for stopping by and yapping a little bit about the post play.
Yeah, thanks
Thanks for having us again. And,
And this time for real, to the listeners, thank you for listening